What's up, guys? It's me, Spectrar, here in another video in Wayward Terran Frontier, continuing my series with the ship building UI. Before I get started, real quick, I don't know what happened with my last video, but the views blew up. I don't know if they're real views, if I accidentally clickbaited something, or if there really are just that many of you that find this useful or interesting. I don't know what to believe, but if there are people who are actually watching this and find it useful, if at any point there's something that I don't go into a lot of detail with that you'd like to see way more detail in, let me know. I'd love to deep dive into something for you if you'd find it helpful. But today we're gonna kind of go through these tabs here on the left, and in part 3 I'm going to be kind of giving like a really base overlay of key components of a ship, like hooking up a reactor to power and stuff like that. Just real high level overview. And again, if you want more detail, just let me know. But over here, you got your list of modules over here, and a module is just something that you can click on and put in your ship and place somewhere. They kind of categorize it, and this is after the most recent update where they've kind of cleaned this up a lot. For those of you who are more familiar with this layout, there used to be a lot more things in here that were not available in the base game, and they've cleaned up a lot of it. And so you won't find most everything you'll find in here you can find in the base game now, like in the campaign. But they separate it out pretty well, where utility is, it's pretty self-explanatory, where utility is stuff that'll help you enhance your ship or control your ship, or things that are utilities, like the command selectors, which we'll go into in the next part. You got your live support, your docks, and then really the bread and butter is this uncategorized section. Sorry, I keep zooming out by accident. Where you just have a lot of utility modules like the drones, medical bays, just stuff that will enhance your ship and is worth looking into. Scanners for looking out further, being able to see more with your radar, missile converters to make your warheads more, deadly in a specific way. You got your drones, big old drone module here. And really, when it comes down to it, these modules you'll more likely add after you have all of your more core elements already added into the ship. In the defense section, you got obviously your shields, and you got your armor. You got two different armor types. You got your base armor, armor type B, and then you got your different type of shield emitters. And really, this continues to go on down the list. You got your weapons, which you got your different weapon mounts. You got your movement, which is your side thrusters, which allow you to do the side-to-side and rotational movement. And then you've got your main engines, which are your forward thrust. You got your power. You got your wiring, which are the conduits, different types for different reasons. And then you got your reactors, capacitors, which store energy. And then you got your radiators that dissipate heat. And then you got your corridors, which allow you to navigate your ship in different ways. And then the obviously needed bridge, which allows you to control your ship, which connects to, these command or these they call them basically selectors, which I will go into more detail in the next part. You got your cargo, and then most of these ones in here are just like for looks, at least for now, so I wouldn't worry too much about these. And then you have got your structure, which is what helps you with your integrity and inertia. So as you can see, when I take like this structure, if you watch those numbers over there, integrity went up, down, up, down. You got different sizes depending on how much you're trying to get and how much room you have in your ship. And again, we'll go into this a little bit more next time. But the main thing I kind of really wanted to go over in these tabs is that you got the different tiers. And I think it's most noticeable. Well, it's the one I was thinking of. Reactors. Reactors is a good one. So you really got the different tiers, and you can see them. You can see the yellow kind of one hexagon looking thing, and then it goes up to 2 and then 3. So those are your different tiers. These ones you really will find in like the orange area, really small base ships, and they do okay. They're not like the most efficient by any means. And then you get into the more blue and white kind of theme, and that's when you get into the tier 2, and everything gets way more efficient, and you get more power for the size of the reactor. And in my opinion, it really comes down to power versus size of the reactor is where you're getting the benefit by going up in tier in a reactor. And I guess just in general, more output. And then you obviously got the red tier, which is the, really, really high tier. Like for instance, this is really small, but it would be perfect for a small ship where you don't need a lot of power, or an area of the ship where you don't need a lot of power. It's just really efficient. And that kind of goes across all modules. You'll see it on all sorts. You can kind of even see it in the capacitors where you've got just like this kind of brown and gray, and then you go to the silver blue motif. You can see it in the engines where you've got a more blue engine. Let me place it somewhere, game. Let me go down towards the bottom. Let me place it down here. Nope. But you can kind of see it over here. Come on. There's brown gray. You've got tiny blue thruster. You can kind of, it's not as prevalent in like the weapon mounts. Because really the only one that's really tier 1 is this fixed one. And the rest are like usable in any instance. So some of them where you really don't see a big difference, you'll use them all the time, just depending on your needs. Shield emitter one, this is obviously the tier 1, your tier 1, and this one looks more alien. That's kind of another way you can differentiate it if it goes from like a normal, quote unquote normal, to more of an alien look, almost. That's another way to differentiate that it's a higher tier just by visuals alone. Obviously, mousing over will give you a good idea of, the difference between different modules. Even the corridors, you got like a basic hallway, and these ones really don't make a difference other than looks and material cost. But that's kind of how you can kind of tell the difference just at a visual glance. Now, that's another thing that is a big component of deciding which components of which tier you want to make. Now, going to the hallway, you can see that if you hold down Alt, you can see it's a 12, but you may not be able to tell what that symbol is. If you hold Alt, it'll tell you iron ore. So this costs 12 iron ore to put in your ship. But if I go to one that's more the same size, so 20 iron ore, if I go to this one, now it's 20 titanium ore. Now, depending on how much of the campaign you've played, you'll know that titanium ore is harder to get, especially early on, than the iron ore. So, and this goes into the cost of the entire ship. And so picking those components can make a big difference, where if I hold Alt on this one, 121 iron ore, 200 titanium ore, you may decide, well, while this one might be better, this one will work and is more accessible resource-wise for me when designing a ship in the campaign. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind when deciding which components from these tabs which ones you're going to decide. Now, navigating these tabs, obviously scroll. I keep accidentally wanting to do it. Scrolling over here doesn't happen. It's just these two arrows down here to go to the next page, and you can obviously see the 1 of 2, 2 of 2 deal here at the bottom. And again, this used to be a lot messier just pre this update, and they've cleaned it up a lot. So it's a lot easier to navigate. Almost everything is right where you would think it is. There's just a few things, and I'm trying to think of an example. Oh, like the weapons. You'd think missiles, everything would be here in the missiles. Well, if you go over to the utility, you actually have some of the missile warhead converters over here in utility rather than in the weapons. So there's some things like that where I don't fully agree where they ended up. So it might take a little bit of looking around to kind of figure out where, where things are. But you'll get used to it as you use it more. And just take your time looking through it. Again, there's a lot less to look through because it got cleaned up. Now, again, in the next part, I am going to go more into like a really high-level overview of how some of these things work, like how a beam setup works. What are these for? How to set up a basic reactor kind of setup with heat sinks and connections. How to set up a command module with these deals and connect them to your weapons. It's going to be really, really high overlook on how it works. And if you guys want anything more specific, you can look through some of the tutorials I've done in the past, or if you feel like they're outdated or they don't go into quite the specifics you want, let me know what you want. I'd love to do a video diving more into it for you. and doing the research for you. So just let me know, and I hope this was useful for you. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next part. See ya.